By the end of the 1940s, a few Russian scientists figured out a gas that could help a human stay awake. And to test this gas, these Russian scientists chose 5 subjects so they can test it on humans. They take these 5 subjects to a room and close the door, and then they release the gas that they have made. The scientists would talk to these 5 subjects with a microphone, and there is a small window looking into the room. We have to say that in this room, there's 5 bits for each of them, and of course, a toilet and washroom for them to take care of business. And also, there was a fridge filled with food that was enough for 5 people through the 30 days that they had to stay there. So who were these subjects they wanted to test the gas on? These were 5 Russian prisoners, and they were promised if they could stay awake throughout the 30 days, they will be released and not go back to prison. The first 5 days passes and they don't sleep, and they don't complain that they need to sleep. But after 5 days, things start to turn south, and you could say the patients start to go crazy because they start talking and not making sense. The next day, they stop talking, but they start whispering with one another. And one of them would even whisper into the microphone and say, "I know of someone that you can catch and put in prison if you let me go." At first, the scientists thought that the gas is doing this to the prisoner, but after all that, they decide to continue the test, and they have to finish the 30 days. 4 days passes, and these 5 people don't make a single noise. The 9th day, one of them starts screaming and running around the room. He runs around the room for 3 hours long as he's screaming, and then eventually, his vocal cord snaps and no noise comes out of him anymore. The weirdest part about that is that while he was screaming for 3 hours long, the other 4 prisoners weren't making a single noise or complaining, and that worried the scientists. And then eventually, the scientists go to the mic and ask what's going on in there. When they ask this question, 2 other prisoners start screaming. But after a few minutes, it stops. The scientists decide to go to the window to check what's going on inside and realize that they can't see because one of the prisoners has covered up the window with his feces. The scientists wait until the 14th day, and when they realize that not only are they not answering the mic, they're not even allowing us to look through the window, they announce, "Move away from the main door, we have to come inside." They also warn the prisoners that we are armed, and if you attack, we will kill you. And before they open the door, they give the prisoners some hope, and they say if you comply and don't do anything, we will release one of you. After the scientists say this in the mic, after a few days of not speaking, one of the prisoners say, "We don't wish to be released." After one of the prisoners spoke, the scientists really tried to get more out of them, and they kept asking questions, but they didn't answer anymore. They wait another day and tried to speak with the prisoners once again, but none of the prisoners decided to speak. When it reaches the 15th day, the scientists say we have to enter the room because we really don't know what's going on in there. One of the scientists suggests, before we go in, stop the gas and release fresh air. When the gas is turned off and it's replaced with fresh air, 3 of the prisoners start screaming and speaking, and one of them starts begging to let him leave and release him. But after a while, they change their thought, and they keep screaming, "Turn on the gas, turn on the gas." Either way, armed guards enter the room, and 4 of the prisoners start screaming, and one of the subjects was dead. The guards take out the dead body and close the door. When the guards get back, the scientists ask them, how were the prisoners looking like? He said they were pretty much dead, but alive. The dead body that they retrieved from the room wasn't in great shape, and all the flesh and skins were torn off. The guards also said that they haven't eaten in several days because there were plenty of food left still, and there's an idea that they were eating each other's flesh, including their own, because all their skin and flesh was missing. Even one of them, their hand bones were showing. The scientist told the guard to go back in there and really take a good look, but the guards declined the offer and say absolutely not. While this conversation is going on, the prisoners continually are begging to turn on the gas, and the scientists tell the guards that you have to go inside the room. If you don't, I will tell your higher up. And the guards were forced to go back in once again. This time, when the guards entered the room, the 4 prisoners attack the guard. One of them bites off the neck of one of the guards and kills him instantly. Another one of the prisoners catches the testicles of one of the guards and also kills him. The third one attacks another guard, and even though the guard had a piece missing from his leg, he successfully ran away. After this happens, more guards enter the room and they try to catch him so they don't bite any more people, and the doctors say to give him anesthesia. At first, the anesthesia is not working and they're moving around like a wild animal. One of the prisoners that are bleeding heavily and he wants to attack everybody, he keeps telling the doctor to give me more, and he's talking about the anesthesia. But after 2 minutes, his heart stops. They give so much anesthesia to the 3 remaining prisoners that they eventually fall, but still they were awake and begging to turn on the gas. When the scientists saw the bodies of the prisoners, they told the doctors that you have to keep them alive, and one of them was so damaged that you could literally see his lungs. They successfully put them to sleep and take them to the operating room. Another one of the prisoners' heart stops and he dies. And the doctors realize that in his bloodstream, he has 3 times the normal amount of oxygen. There's still 2 remaining. One of them is the one that screamed non-stop in the beginning and has a torn vocal cord. And after that, not only could he not talk, he couldn't even beg. Even with all that and anesthesia, he was moving like a rabid animal. But after much more anesthesia, they put him to sleep. But all of a sudden, in the middle of the operation, he opens his eyes. And when he makes eye contact with one of the nurses, he smiles at her. The scientists and doctors wouldn't believe that a person has been cut up like this, but he's not feeling any pain. After a few minutes, he starts moving around and making noises, but the doctors realize because of his torn vocal cords, he can't speak, so they decide to give him a pen and paper and tell him to write it down. He simply writes on the paper, "Keep cutting." After writing this, even though he's supposed to be asleep, he continuously stares into the doctor's eyes. As you know, there's 2 of them. The other one is still in the operating room and the anesthesia is not working on him, and he keeps on screaming to turn the gas on. The doctor asks him, "Why did you cut yourself? Why do you keep wanting the gas?" He gives a simple answer: "I must stay awake." Eventually, the doctors successfully were able to keep these 2 alive, and after the operation was done, they put them back into the same room, but this time, only 2 people. The leader of the project comes along and tells the scientists to turn the gas back on, but the scientists heavily disagree because this time they will die. But they were told that they have to do it. and that's why the gas was turned back on. After the gas is turned back on, it seems like they came back to life and they turned quiet again. But after a few minutes, the same one that had a torn vocal cord started screaming again. This is when the leader of the project tells the scientists an extremely bizarre order. It's during the Soviet Union, and you can't run away from an order. He tells the scientists to enter the room, stay there for a few hours, and see what happens. It's at this time that one of the scientists takes out a weapon from one of the guards and shoots the leader. Then the scientist with the same gun runs to the door, opens it, and shoots the prisoner that had a torn vocal cord. And then he points the gun towards the last prisoner. The guards are holding a gun towards the scientist, and the scientist keeps on holding the weapon towards the prisoner. The scientists say, "I won't allow you to keep me with these prisoners." While the scientist is holding the weapon towards the subject's head, he asks him, "Who are you? I have to know what you are." The subject smiled and said, "Have you forgotten so easily? We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all, begging to be free at every moment in your deepest animal mind. We are what you hide from in your beds every night. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis when you go to the nocturnal haven where we cannot tread." After the researcher heard this, he was terrified and paused. But then he aims at the subject's heart and fires. Before the subject dies, in his last breath he says, "So nearly free."